Commander Velthar's 6 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. He had monitored the quarantine zone for 70 years without incident. The massive energy barrier called the Veil glowed on his screens, steady and unchanging. Nothing ever happened here. That was the point. Then his screens exploded with warnings. A signal was coming through the Veil. Impossible. The barrier had been sealed for 10,000 years. Nothing could pass through it. Yet here it was, a clear transmission in multiple languages, some that hadn't been spoken in millennia. The message was short and terrifying. "We are ready. We are coming out." Velthar immediately contacted the Galactic Council. Within hours, every major species leader gathered on Arxis Prime. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with anxious voices. High Arbiter Thelkor called for silence, his massive form towering over the assembly. The archivists, ancient keepers of galactic history, were summoned. They brought forbidden records from the deepest vaults. The truth was worse than anyone imagined. 10,000 years ago, a primitive species called humans had been sealed inside that zone. They had been in a war with another aggressive civilization. The humans didn't just survive that war, they won. But their methods were brutal. They adapted faster than any species the Council had ever seen. They created weapons that terrified even the most advanced civilizations. They showed no mercy to their enemies. The Council had faced a choice: destroy humanity or isolate them. They chose isolation, hoping humans would either die out or become peaceful over time. Now, 10,000 years later, the humans were announcing their return. Inside the quarantine zone, Captain Daehyun stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. His ship was enormous, bristling with weapons that had been refined over centuries. Behind him, through the viewscreen, he could see the fleet. 200 human vessels waited in formation. Dr. Hana stood beside him, her face worried. "We should try to talk first," she said. "Show them we've changed." Daehyun's jaw tightened. "They imprisoned us, Hana. They left us to die. 97% of Earth's life died after they sealed us in. Billions of humans starved. We didn't change because we wanted to. We changed because we had to survive." Admiral Yuna's voice came through the communication system. "All ships prepare for barrier breach. Humanity has been caged long enough. Today we reclaim our place in the galaxy." The human ships had developed something the Council thought impossible: quantum tunneling drives that could phase through energy barriers. It had taken 1,000 years of research, countless failures, and the work of the greatest minds humanity had ever produced. But they had done it. Daehyun gave the order. "All ships engage quantum drives. Let's go home." Back on Sentinel Station Omega, Velthar watched his screens in horror. Hundreds of signatures were appearing on the other side of the Veil. Ships were phasing through the supposedly impenetrable barrier as if it were nothing more than mist. The first human ship fully materialized in open space. It was massive, larger than most Council warships. Its hull was scarred and patched, showing centuries of hard use. Every surface bristled with weapon systems. This was not a ship built for exploration. This was a ship built for war. But then something unexpected happened. The ship began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not threats, not demands, but information, music, art, scientific data, historical records. Everything about humanity, their culture, their achievements, their mistakes. All of it, transmitted freely to anyone who would listen. A voice accompanied the transmission. Captain Daehyun spoke clearly. "This is the United Earth Systems. We are humanity. For 10,000 years we were imprisoned in darkness. We survived, we grew, we learned. Now we return, not as conquerors, but as a species that deserves to exist. We offer peace. We offer cooperation, but we will never accept imprisonment again." Velthar stared at his screens in confusion. An aggressive species wouldn't broadcast their entire history. They wouldn't show their weaknesses, their internal conflicts, their darkest moments. What were the humans trying to prove? On Arxis Prime, the Council chamber erupted in chaos. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for caution. High Arbiter Thelkor's voice boomed over the noise. "We face a critical decision. Do we destroy them now, or do we risk everything and try to understand them?" Velthar made a decision that would change everything. He opened a direct channel to the human flagship. "This is Commander Velthar of the Galactic Council. I am requesting permission to speak with your leaders." There was a long pause. Then Daehyun's voice responded. "Permission granted, Commander. We have much to discuss." The fate of humanity and perhaps the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The diplomatic station floated in neutral space far from any world. Inside, two groups faced each other across a conference table. On one side sat the council delegation, Commander Velthar, diplomat Siriel who could read emotions through telepathy, and General Morax, a massive warrior who viewed humans as threats. On the other side sat the humans, Ambassador Jiwan, Captain Daehyun, Dr. Hana, and Colonel Junho, whose cold eyes made even Velthar uncomfortable. Ambassador Jiwan spoke first. Her voice was calm and measured. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We know you are afraid. We understand why. Our history is not clean, but we ask you to judge us not by who we were 10,000 years ago, but by who we have become." She activated a holographic display. Images filled the air. Human cities, beautiful and clean, children playing in parks, scientists working in laboratories, artists creating music and paintings. Jiwan showed them everything. The good and the bad. The wars humanity had fought against themselves. The times they had failed. The times they had succeeded. General Morax slammed his fist on the table. "Words and pictures mean nothing. You come here in warships. You breach our most powerful barrier as if it were paper. You say you want peace, but you bring weapons. Explain that." Captain Daehyun leaned forward. His voice was hard. "We built warships because we learned that survival requires strength. You imprisoned us once. We made sure you could never do it again. If that makes us dangerous, then yes, we are dangerous. But we are also fair. We don't want to conquer. We want to exist." Siriel, the telepath, spoke quietly. "I sense no deception from Ambassador Jiwan or Dr. Hana. They truly want peace. But you, Colonel Junho, and you, Captain Daehyun, I sense calculation. Planning. You have prepared for war even while speaking of peace." Colonel Junho smiled coldly. "Of course we have. We would be fools not to. But preparing for war doesn't mean we want it. It means we won't be helpless victims again." Velthar raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Jiwan, what exactly do humans want from the Council?" Jiwan's answer was simple. Recognition as a sovereign species, access to trade and knowledge, and a promise that the Council will never imprison us again. In return, we offer our technology, our resources, and our help in keeping the galaxy safe. The meeting broke for a recess. Velthar returned to his quarters and began reviewing the human broadcasts. Hours of data, cultural records, scientific papers, and then he found something that made him freeze. Inside the quarantine zone, humans had encountered another species. The remnants. These were survivors of the very civilization that had tried to exterminate humanity 10,000 years ago. They were broken, starving, desperate. Logic said humans should destroy them. Revenge demanded it. But humans hadn't destroyed them. They had saved them, fed them, given them shelter. Slowly, carefully, humans had integrated the remnants into their society. Now remnants lived on human worlds as equal citizens. Some even served in the human fleet. Velthar couldn't believe it. Humans had shown mercy to their greatest enemies, the very beings who had tried to wipe them out. This changed everything he thought he knew about human nature. When the meeting resumed, Velthar shared his discovery. The council delegates reacted with shock. General Morax was suspicious. This is manipulation. They enslaved the remnants and now use them as propaganda. Ambassador Jiwan shook her head. The remnants are free citizens with full rights under human law. We invite you to send observers to our worlds. Interview the remnants yourselves. See how they live. We hide nothing. Before the debate could continue, an explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered. Alarms screamed. The hull had been breached. Air was venting into space. Sections of the station began decompressing. Chaos erupted. People ran in every direction. Colonel Junho moved with military precision, sealing blast doors. Captain Daehyun grabbed General Morax, who was injured, and dragged him to safety. Dr. Hana worked with council medics, treating the wounded without asking which species they belonged to. Security teams found the saboteur, a Vorgath extremist who opposed any human integration. He had planted bombs throughout the station. His goal was to frame humanity and restart the conflict. But his plan failed because humans had helped save everyone. Then came worse news. The station's reactor was failing. The explosion had damaged the core. In 10 minutes, the entire station would explode in a blast that would vaporize everything within 1,000 kilometers. Chief Engineer Minho, a human expert, ran to the reactor room with a team. He studied the damage quickly. "We can stabilize it, but we need to use quantum drive technology. It's risky. If we make a mistake, we could make the explosion worse." Daehyun didn't hesitate. "Do it." Minho and his team worked frantically. They installed quantum stabilizers around the failing core. The technology was far more advanced than anything the Council possessed. With seconds to spare, they activated the system. The reactor stabilized. The station was saved. In the aftermath, Velthar sat in silence. If humans had wanted war, they could have let the station explode, blamed it on the Council, used it as an excuse for revenge. But they hadn't. They had saved everyone, including those who wanted them dead. Back on Arxis Prime, the full Council voted. The chamber was divided. Some species voted to accept humanity. Others voted to reject them. The vote came down to Velthar's decision. He stood and spoke clearly. "I vote to grant humanity provisional membership. They have proven themselves through actions, not words. I propose a 50-year probationary period. If they honor their commitments, they will become full members." The vote passed. Humanity was recognized as a sovereign species. Ambassador G1 bowed her head in gratitude. But High Arbiter Thelkor issued a warning. "One mistake. One act of aggression, and we will end you." Captain Daehyun met his gaze steadily. "We have survived worse threats than yours, Arbiter. We hope it never comes to that. But if it does, you will find we are not easy to kill." 5 years passed. Human colonies spread across their designated territories. Trade routes opened between human and Council worlds. Human medical technology saved millions of lives. Their quantum drives made space travel faster and safer. Slowly, the galaxy was learning to live with humanity. But not everyone was happy. On many Council worlds, protests erupted. Signs reading "Humans go home" appeared in city squares. Some species feared that human influence was destroying their traditional cultures. Others worried that humans were becoming too powerful too quickly. Dr. Hana ran cultural exchange programs, trying to build bridges between species. Young humans studied on Council worlds. Young Council citizens visited human colonies. Progress was slow, but it was happening. Then the Devourers arrived. They came from beyond the galactic rim. Massive swarms of biomechanical creatures that consumed entire worlds. They stripped planets of all resources and life, leaving nothing but dead rocks floating in space. Council military forces tried to stop them and failed. The Devourers were too many, too fast, too adaptable. Council scientists calculated that the Devourers would reach the core worlds within 10 years. Billions would die. Perhaps trillions. The Council military, designed for peacekeeping, was not prepared for total war. High Arbiter Thelkor swallowed his pride and contacted Admiral Yuna. "We need your help," he admitted. "Our forces cannot stop them alone." Admiral Yuna arrived with a fleet and a proposal. "We form a joint task force. Council provides numbers. Humans provide tactics and weapons. We fight together or we die separately." The Council agreed. A new ship was built, the Unity, crewed by both humans and Council species. Captain Daehyun was given command. His crew included Lieutenant Sora, a brilliant human pilot. Velthar joined as military advisor. Ensign Kai, a young human engineer, handled the advanced systems. Their mission was simple: study the Devourers and find a weakness. The Unity traveled to the front lines. The mixed crew struggled at first. Council species followed strict procedures. Humans preferred quick decisions. Arguments erupted daily over tactics and protocol. Then a Devourer scout swarm found them. Hundreds of biodrones attacked from all directions. The Council officers called for a defensive formation and a retreat to regroup. Daehyun knew they wouldn't survive long enough to retreat. He made a split-second decision. "Sora, full power to engines. Take us straight through their formation. Kai, route all weapons power to forward shields. Everyone hold on." The Unity dove forward at maximum speed. Devourer drones slammed into the shields and shattered. The ship punched through the swarm and escaped. The maneuver violated every Council military regulation. It was reckless and dangerous. It had also saved their lives. The Council crew members were furious. "You could have gotten us all killed," one officer shouted. "That was pure luck, not skill." Velthar defended Daehyun. "He kept us alive. That's what matters. Maybe we need to learn from human tactics instead of just criticizing them." The crew captured several disabled Devourer biodrones for study. Dr. Hana and council scientists worked together, analyzing the creatures. After weeks of research, they made a breakthrough. The Devourers weren't individuals. They were all connected to a single hive intelligence located in a massive flagship. If they could destroy that flagship, the entire swarm would shut down. Admiral Yuna proposed a desperate plan. A small strike team would use human stealth technology to infiltrate the flagship. They would plant a quantum bomb at the core of the hive intelligence. The mission was almost certainly suicide. The flagship was deep in Devourer territory, protected by millions of biodrones. Dae-hyun volunteered immediately. "I'll lead the team." Lieutenant Sora stepped forward. "I'm going with you." Ensign Kai joined them. "You'll need an engineer." Velthar surprised everyone. "I'm coming too. This isn't just a human fight anymore." A Vorgath commando named Grax, who had once hated humans, also volunteered. "I've seen you fight. If anyone can do this, it's this crew." The team used a stealth shuttle to approach the flagship. It was enormous, a living ship made of organic matter and biomechanical technology. They landed in a maintenance port and entered the dark corridors inside. The interior was nightmare. Walls pulsed like living flesh. Dormant biodrones hung from the ceiling like bats. The team moved quietly, weapons ready. Every sound echoed in the vast chambers. They reached the core chamber. The hive intelligence was there, a massive brain-like structure floating in biofluid. Kai began arming the quantum bomb. The timer was set for 5 minutes, plenty of time to escape. Then the hive mind woke up. It spoke directly into their minds. Images flooded their consciousness. The Devourers had once been a peaceful civilization. Then something came from outside their galaxy, a force of pure destruction that consumed entire dimensions. The Devourers were refugees fleeing in terror, consuming everything in their path to gain strength to survive. Dr. Hana's voice came through their communicators. She was monitoring from the Unity. "Wait, if they're refugees, maybe we can negotiate. Maybe we can help them." Dae-hyun's voice was hard. "They've destroyed dozens of worlds. Killed billions. There's no time for mercy." Kai activated the bomb. 30 seconds. "Let's go." The team ran. Biodrones awakened and pursued them. They fought their way back to the shuttle. Behind them, the quantum bomb detonated. The flagship exploded in a cascade of energy that spread through quantum dimensions. Across the galaxy, millions of Devourer biodrones went dormant, drifting lifelessly in space. The threat was over, but the hive mind's final warning haunted them all. Something worse was coming, something that had driven the Devourers to desperation, and deep space probes were already detecting anomalies at the galactic edge. Dimensional rifts were opening. The real danger was just beginning. 18 months after the Devourer victory, the dimensional rifts appeared. They started small, tears in space that swallowed single ships. Then entire stations vanished. Then planets. Whole star systems were consumed by darkness that left no trace behind. Council scientists studied the phenomenon desperately. Nothing made sense. These weren't natural events. Something was creating the rifts deliberately. Something was using them as weapons. Dr. June, a human theoretical physicist, proposed a terrifying theory. The rifts were doorways from another dimension. An intelligence from a parallel universe was harvesting entire galaxies for energy. He called them the Voidborn. They existed partially outside normal reality, making them almost impossible to fight. Panic spread across the galaxy. Entire populations tried to flee, but there was nowhere safe to go. The rifts were appearing everywhere. High Arbiter Thelkor called an emergency session. He proposed activating the Nexus Array, an ancient superweapon built by the Council's founders. It could seal dimensional barriers permanently, but using it required draining an entire star's energy. Worse, the consequences were unknown. It might destabilize space-time itself. The Council debated for weeks while systems continued to vanish. They had no choice. Extinction was certain without action. They voted to activate the Nexus Array. Admiral Yuna offered a human solution. During their isolation, humans had developed reality anchors, devices that stabilized space-time near black holes to protect colony ships. If they combined these with the Nexus Array, they might seal the rift safely. It was risky. The technology had never been tested at galactic scale, but it was their only chance. Captain Dae-hyun's mission was to deploy anchor beacons at key rift locations while the Nexus Array charged. His crew expanded to include Corporal Heejin, a combat medic, and Scientist Taeyang, a human remnant hybrid who represented the new generation of cooperation. Each deployment grew more dangerous. The rifts were unstable. Reality itself bent around them. At the third rift site, they encountered their first void-born entity. It was massive and incomprehensible. The creature existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Parts of it were visible, parts were not. It seemed to shift and change as they looked at it. Their sensors couldn't properly track it. It was like trying to see something that existed in more directions than should be possible. The Voidborn attacked. Its weapons phased through shields as if they weren't there. It warped space-time around the Unity, creating gravity wells that threatened to tear the ship apart. Conventional weapons passed through it harmlessly. Taeyang realized the problem. The Voidborn existed across multiple realities. To hurt it, they had to hit it in all dimensions at once. Kai modified their quantum torpedoes. This is experimental. It might work. It might blow us up instead. Daehyun didn't hesitate. Fire! The torpedoes launched. They struck the Voidborn simultaneously across multiple dimensional layers. The creature shrieked, a sound that hurt their minds. It twisted and writhed. Then it retreated back into the rift. Before disappearing, it transmitted something. The translation was rough but clear enough. You are noticed. The implication was terrifying. That wasn't a real attack. It was a scout. The Voidborn were just now becoming aware of this galaxy. During the battle, a dimensional fluctuation tore through the engineering deck. Ensign Kai was caught in it. His left arm was ripped away at the molecular level. Corporal Hyojin stabilized him with human nanomeds, but the damage was severe. Dr. Hana, now serving as the Unity's chief medical officer, fitted Kai with an advanced prosthetic. But the trauma affected him deeply. He had nightmares. He questioned whether he could still do his job. Daehyun visited him in medical. You saved us all today, Kai. That modified torpedo design worked because you're brilliant. Don't let fear take that away from you. Kai looked at his new prosthetic arm. What if I'm not fast enough next time? What if I make a mistake and people die? Daehyun's voice was gentle. Then you'll be like the rest of us, imperfect, human, doing our best anyway. They deployed the final anchor beacon. The Nexus array reached full charge. The Council activated it. Energy surged through the network. The rifts began to close. Then everything went wrong. The Voidborn launched a massive counterattack. Hundreds of entities poured through the closing rifts. They attacked simultaneously across dozens of star systems. It was a desperate final invasion before their doorways sealed forever. The galaxy erupted into the largest battle in recorded history. Council fleets engaged Voidborn entities across vast distances. Human ships used guerrilla tactics, quantum jump ambushes, and decoy drones to disrupt enemy formations. Admiral Yuna personally commanded the defense of the Nexus array. If it fell, the rifts would never close. The entire galaxy would be consumed. A massive Voidborn entity broke through the defensive lines. It was heading straight for the array. Yuna knew what had to be done. She ordered her flagship, the UES Endurance, to intercept. The ship was loaded with antimatter warheads. All hands, this is Admiral Yuna. It has been an honor serving with you. Today we saved the galaxy. The Endurance rammed the Voidborn entity at full speed. The antimatter warheads detonated in a blinding explosion. The blast was so powerful that it was visible from systems hundreds of light years away. The Voidborn entity was obliterated. The Nexus array survived. Admiral Yuna and 5,000 crew members died instantly. The Nexus array completed its cycle. The rift sealed. The remaining Voidborn entities cut off from their dimension dissipated into quantum foam. The galaxy was saved. The cost was staggering. The Council had lost hundreds of worlds. Trillions of citizens died. Humanity lost 20% of their fleet and 8% of their total population. It was the darkest day in galactic history. On Earth's rebuilt surface, Captain Daehyun stood at a memorial ceremony. He read names of the fallen. Among them was Admiral Yuna, whom he had served under for 30 years. Tears ran down his face as he spoke her name. The galaxy mourned together, and in recognition of their sacrifice, the Council granted humanity full membership with voting rights equal to any founding species. The quarantine was officially permanently lifted. Humanity had proven themselves not through conquest, but through sacrifice. 10 years passed. The galaxy healed slowly. Human technology merged with council wisdom. Together, they achieved wonders. Medical advances extended lifespans for all species. Terraforming restored war-damaged worlds. Quantum networks connected billions of beings across vast distances. Captain Daehyun, now Counselor Daehyun, had become a respected galactic statesman. Dr. Hana directed the Interspecies Academy, where young beings from dozens of species learned together. Lieutenant Sora commanded her own exploration ship. Ensign Kai, fully recovered, served as chief engineer on the Unity. Peace seemed secure, but peace always breeds new conflicts. A political faction called the Purists emerged. They believed human influence was destroying traditional cultures. They argued that species were becoming too dependent on human technology. They wanted a return to the old ways before humanity emerged from the quarantine zone. Among humans, a radical group called the Sovereigns gained followers. They claimed humans were doing all the work while the Council treated them as junior partners. They demanded humanity leave the Council and forge their own path. Trust between species began to erode. Trade routes closed. Diplomatic channels went silent. The galaxy that had united against extinction now threatened to tear itself apart over politics. Then deep space explorers made a discovery that changed everything. At the galactic core, they found the Genesis Vault, an ancient structure built around a neutron star. It was a repository of knowledge from the progenitors, the mythical first civilization that supposedly seeded life across the galaxy billions of years ago. The Council dispatched an expedition. Counselor Velthar led the team. Counselor Daehyun insisted on joining. Dr. Hana, scientist Taeyang, and representatives from a dozen species went with them. The Genesis Vault was massive. Its databanks contained technology and secrets that could revolutionize civilization or destroy it. As the team explored, they found weapon schematics capable of annihilating stars, genetic codes for creating new life forms, historical records that revealed disturbing truths. The progenitors hadn't died. They had transcended physical form, becoming beings of pure consciousness. Before leaving, they encoded a final warning in the vault's core. The galaxy operated in cycles of creation and destruction. The current cycle was nearing its end. News of the warning leaked to the public. Panic spread. The purists claimed this, proved that the Council's expansion policies had angered cosmic forces. They demanded humanity's exile. The Sovereigns argued humans should claim the Vault's weapons to ensure their survival regardless of what came. The Council fractured. Some species sided with the purists. Others supported humanity. Many simply panicked and withdrew from galactic affairs. Extremists from both sides launched attacks. Purist radicals tried to steal progenitor weapons to use against human colonies. Sovereigns sabotaged Council facilities. A firefight erupted inside the Genesis Vault itself. In the chaos, the Vault's ancient defense systems activated. Machines that had slept for eons awakened. The Vault began a self-destruct sequence designed to prevent unworthy civilizations from accessing progenitor secrets. Counselor Daehyun and Velthar fought to protect the research team while extremists battled around them. Dr. Hana and scientist Taeyang raced to the control center to stop the self-destruct. They discovered the sequence could only be stopped by answering a progenitor test. The question was embedded in multi-dimensional mathematics, but its meaning was clear. Is your civilization worthy of existence? Dr. Hana realized the answer wasn't something they could calculate. It was a choice they had to make. She input humanity's entire history, wars and atrocities, art and compassion, the decision to show mercy to the remnants. She added Council history too, their strengths and failures, everything, the complete truth. The progenitor system processed the data. The Vault systems shut down. The self-destruct stopped. A holographic entity appeared. It claimed to be a fragment of progenitor consciousness left behind to guide worthy successors. It spoke in a voice that seemed to echo across dimensions. The current galactic civilization, though flawed, demonstrated sufficient growth potential. The cycle would not end in destruction, but evolution. The progenitors offered a choice. Accept their knowledge and ascend to a higher existence as they had done, or reject it and continue evolving naturally. The decision had to be unanimous among all species. The council reconvened on Arxis Prime. The vote was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species had to choose: ascension or mortality, transcendence or struggle, perfection or freedom. Species after species cast their votes. Arguments raged. Some wanted to escape mortality and conflict forever. Others believed that struggle and growth gave life meaning. When humanity's turn came, Counselor Daehyun stood before billions watching. He delivered a speech that echoed across the stars. Humanity emerged from a quarantine zone not to conquer or transcend, but to live, to experience joy and pain, to create and destroy, to connect with others, to be imperfect and still worthy. Humanity voted to remain mortal. Inspired by his words, the majority of council species voted the same. The galaxy chose to remain as they were. Mortal, flawed, but free to shape their own destiny. The progenitor fragment acknowledged their choice and faded away. The Genesis vault sealed permanently, its secrets locked forever. The galaxy had passed the test not by seeking perfection, but by accepting imperfection. And in that moment, species that had been divided by fear and politics remembered what they had learned fighting together. They were stronger united than divided. The fractures began to heal. The Genesis Vault crisis left deep wounds. Though the galaxy voted to stay united, extremist factions refused to accept the decision. Purist cells launched terrorist attacks on human colonies. Sovereigns sabotaged council infrastructure. Trust between species eroded again. Counselor Daehyun, weary from decades of conflict, considered resignation. He was old now, his hair gray, his body tired. But Dr. Hana urged him to stay. The galaxy needed leaders who had proven their commitment to unity. Captain Sora of the UES Horizon patrolled disputed border zones. One day, her ship detected a Purist warship attacking a refugee convoy carrying families fleeing violence. Sora could have destroyed the Purist ship easily. Instead, she disabled its weapons and rescued survivors from both sides. Among the Purists, she found terrified families. They had been told lies by extremist leaders, stories about human extermination camps, plans to erase their cultures. None of it was true, but they had believed it. Sora realized that many on both sides were victims of fear and propaganda. They weren't evil. They were scared. And scared people made dangerous choices. Scientist Tai Yang returned to the remnant homeworld. It was now a thriving colony, fully integrated into human space. He discovered something interesting. Young remnants born after the integration viewed themselves as human citizens. They had no memory of the old wars. But older remnants struggled with identity and guilt over their species' past aggression. Taeyang organized reconciliation forums. Remnants and humans shared their stories. Some sessions were angry, some were tearful, but all were honest. Healing happened slowly, person by person, story by story. Counselor Velthar proposed something ambitious, a galaxy-wide summit of voices. Not just government representatives, but civilians, artists, scientists, former extremists. Anyone who wanted to speak could attend and be heard. The summit was held on a neutral space station. Thousands attended, representing every council species. Counselor Daehyun gave the opening address. He admitted humanity's mistakes. Their arrogance in assuming they had all the answers. Their military posturing that fueled purist fears. Their failure to listen to species with different values. His honesty surprised many. It disarmed skeptics who expected defensiveness. Over weeks, the summit became a space for healing. A Crithian elder spoke of losing her family in the Devourer War. A human medic had saved her grandson. She had hated humans before that moment. Now she couldn't imagine the galaxy without them. A Vorgath soldier admitted he joined the Purists because he feared humans would erase Vorgath warrior culture. Then he met human historians who had dedicated their lives to preserving Vorgath traditions. He realized his fears were based on lies. A young human colonist described growing up idolizing council species. She had studied their languages, their art, their philosophy. When she learned that many council citizens wanted humans gone, she felt devastated, like she didn't belong anywhere. Dr. Hana moderated sessions where former enemies talked directly. Sometimes people shouted, sometimes they cried, but they talked. They listened. They began to understand. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Jiwan, now elderly but still sharp, revealed something humanity had kept private. She shared recordings from the debates before humans emerged from the quarantine zone. The recordings showed humanity's internal conflict. Some humans had argued for emerging as conquerors, taking revenge on the Council for the quarantine, claiming the galaxy by force. Other humans argued for peace and partnership. The debates were heated, painful, angry. Humanity's darkest impulses clashed with their highest ideals. The decision to emerge peacefully hadn't been unanimous or easy. It required compromise, sacrifice, and faith in beings they had never met. Jiwan looked at the assembled delegates. If humanity, a species you once feared above all others, could choose cooperation over domination, then surely this diverse galaxy can do the same. We are all capable of darkness. We are all capable of light. The choice is always ours. The summit concluded with the drafting of the Reconciliation Accords, a framework for mutual respect, cultural preservation, and shared governance. Key provisions included autonomy for species to govern internal affairs, mandatory cultural education in schools, and a joint security force where no single species held majority control. Extremist groups on both sides denounced the accords, but the vast majority of galactic citizens supported them. They were tired of fear, tired of conflict. They wanted peace. The accords were ratified in a historic vote. It wasn't perfect. Extremists continued sporadic attacks. Some species remained suspicious, but the direction had changed. The galaxy was choosing unity over division. Counselor Dae-hyun watched young humans and council species training together at the Interspecies Academy. They laughed together, studied together, formed friendships that crossed species boundaries. For the first time in decades, he felt genuine hope. Belthar visited him privately one evening. They stood together looking at the stars through the observation window. Two old friends who had once been enemies. When humans first emerged from the quarantine zone, Belthar said quietly, "I believed it was the end of everything. I thought you would destroy us all?" Dae-hyun smiled. Many humans believed the same thing. We thought the Council would exterminate us the moment we emerged. Belthar's multiple eyes reflected the starlight. Instead, it became a new beginning. For all of us, Dae-hyun nodded. Humanity spent 10,000 years in darkness preparing to prove the galaxy wrong about us. We're still proving it, and we're not done yet. They stood in comfortable silence, watching ships move between the stars, human vessels and council vessels flying side by side. The future was uncertain. It always was. But for the first time, they would face it together. 25 years passed. The galaxy transformed beyond recognition. Human colonies numbered in the hundreds. Mixed species crews were common on trade and exploration vessels. The cultural exchange programs Dr. Hana pioneered created a generation that thought of themselves as galactic citizens first. Species member Second Counselor Dae-hyun, now in his late 80s, had stepped down from active politics. He spent his time mentoring young leaders and writing his memoirs. His body was frail, but his mind remained sharp. He watched the galaxy change and felt satisfied with what he had helped build. The next generation had taken the helm. Lieutenant Gina, Dae-hyun's granddaughter, commanded the UES Voyager, an exploration vessel charting unknown regions. Her crew included beings from a dozen species. Among them was Nari, Velthar's great-grandchild, a Krethian scientist. They discovered a new habitable world in an uncharted system. It was beautiful, covered in forests and oceans, but they also found ruins. Evidence of an ancient civilization that had destroyed itself in a war over resources. The discovery was sobering. A reminder that peace was fragile, that civilizations could fall, that the galaxy must never take unity for granted. Dae-hyun received word that Dr. Hana was gravely ill. He traveled immediately to the Interspecies Academy, where she had lived and worked for decades. Other veterans of the early days gathered at her bedside. Velthar came, Captain Sora, scientists, soldiers, friends from across the galaxy. Hana looked at them with eyes that still sparkled despite her failing body. "Look at you all," she said softly. "When we started, you were enemies. Now you're family." She reflected on their journey. From feared primitives to trusted allies, from isolation to integration. The greatest victory, she told them, wasn't defeating the Devourers or surviving the Rift crisis. It was proving that beings from vastly different worlds could build something beautiful together. She passed away peacefully, surrounded by friends. The galaxy mourned. Hana's memorial service was held on Earth at the site where the quarantine zone's edge once stood. Thousands attended from every council species. Daehyun delivered the eulogy, his voice breaking with emotion. He recounted how Hana never stopped believing in unity, even when the galaxy seemed determined to tear itself apart. He revealed that she had left a final message, a holographic recording for future generations. The hologram activated. Hana's image appeared, younger and healthy. She looked directly at the camera, as if seeing through time itself. "To those who come after us," she said, "the peace you enjoy was built on sacrifice, compromise, and the willingness to see beyond fear. Guard it fiercely, but never take it for granted. Remember that we are all capable of great good and great evil. The choice is always yours." In the months following Hana's death, long-range sensors detected anomalies at the galactic edge, patterns similar to those that preceded the Voidborn invasion. The galaxy prepared for another crisis, but this time the response was different. No panic, no division. Council species mobilized together. Human fleets coordinated with council armadas. Scientists from dozens of worlds collaborated. Young officers like Lieutenant Gina trained in joint exercises where cooperation was natural, instinctive. Whatever came next, the galaxy would face it united. Daehyun sat in his home on Earth, overlooking restored forests. The planet was green again. Life had returned after centuries of devastation. Velthar visited him, both of them ancient by their species' standards. They reflected on their decades of friendship. From adversaries to allies to brothers in all but blood, Velthar asked if Daehyun had any regrets. "I wish we could have emerged earlier," Daehyun admitted. "Maybe we could have spared the galaxy some suffering." Velthar shook his head. "Perhaps you needed those 10,000 years to become who you are. Not conquerors, not saviors. Partners. The galaxy needed that version of humanity, not the one that was quarantined so long ago." An urgent message interrupted them. It was from Lieutenant Gina's ship. The anomalies had resolved into something unexpected, not another invasion, but a signal from beyond the galaxy. Structured, deliberate, intelligent. The message translated roughly as, "We have been watching. We have been waiting. You have proven yourselves. Welcome to the greater cosmos." The galaxy realized they were never alone. There were civilizations beyond even the progenitor's reach. They had been observing, waiting to see if this galaxy was worthy of contact. The council convened to debate this new frontier. High Arbiter Kresh, Thelkor's successor, turned to Counselor Gina, the newest human representative. Gina spoke with the conviction of her grandfather. "Humanity knows what it's like to be feared and isolated. If there are civilizations beyond ours, we should meet them with openness, not suspicion. But also with strength, not naivety. We extend a hand in friendship, but we remain ready to defend ourselves." The council agreed unanimously. They would respond to the signal carefully as a united galaxy. Daehyun watched the broadcast of the council's decision. He smiled, thinking back to that day decades ago when the UES Indomitable emerged from the quarantine zone. Humanity's fate had been so uncertain then. Now they stood as equals among the stars. Velthar sat beside him. Together they watched ships assembling for the journey to answer the signal. Human vessels and council flagships flying side by side, united under a common purpose. "Our story ends here," Velthar said quietly. Daehyun nodded. "But the galaxy's story continues." Decades later, historians would call this era the emergence. Not just humanity's emergence from the quarantine zone, but the galaxy's emergence from isolation and fear into cooperation and hope. They would preserve the stories of those who made it possible. Admiral Yuna's sacrifice, Hana's compassion, Velthar's open mind, Daehyun's determination. But the greatest legacy was simpler. A galaxy where species once divided by fear now stood together, where children of former enemies played side by side, where the unknown was faced not with terror but with curiosity. Humanity, once quarantined as too dangerous to exist, became the catalyst for the galaxy's greatest transformation. And the story continues.